The massive ship glided through space, its metal hull reflecting the distant starlight. Inside, Commander Jack Hudson stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the alien station grow larger on the main screen. His heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and everything had to go perfectly. Nervous sir? Lieutenant Olivia Rice asked, stepping beside him. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed. A healthy amount, Jack admitted. Wouldn't be human if I wasn't. The term human carried new weight now. Earth had been classified as a death world by galactic standards, a planet with high gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and countless diseases. The aliens were both impressed and frightened. The humans had not only survived but thrived in such conditions. Final approach to Galactic Council Station, announced the pilot. They're sending docking instructions now. The United Earth Navy ship UES Discovery slowed as it approached the massive ring-shaped station. The structure was unlike anything humans had built, with sections clearly designed for different alien physiologies. Some areas glowed with strange lights, while others remained completely dark. Remember the briefing, Jack said to his crew of 20. We're here as guests and representatives of Earth. Be respectful, but stand your ground if needed. The ship docked with a gentle bump. Jack led his team to the airlock, where they waited as the atmosphere equalized. The doors slid open to reveal 3 aliens waiting for them. The tallest had blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water. Next to it stood a being with 4 arms and golden scales. The third was short with gray fur and large black eyes. Welcome to the Galactic Council Station, said the blue alien in perfect English. I am Ambassador XL Foreign of the Zithrian Empire. These are representatives from the Procyon Collective and the Vexillian Federation. Jack stepped forward. Commander Jack Hudson of the United Earth Navy, thank you for your welcome. As they walked through the station, Olivia Rice took notes on her tablet. She counted at least 12 different species just on their short walk. Some moved on tentacles, others floated slightly above the ground. A few wore what looked like environmental suits. They entered a large chamber where dozens of alien representatives sat in tiered seating. A murmur went through the crowd as the humans entered. The Deathworlders have arrived, someone said loudly enough for the translation devices to pick up. Jack felt a flash of anger, but kept his face neutral. The term sounded like an insult the way it was said. Ambassador Zelthorin guided them to seats at the bottom level. The Council will hear Earth's petition for recognition shortly. Until then, please be seated. As they waited, Olivia leaned close to Jack. Sir, something feels off. Did you notice how some species won't look at us directly, and others seem almost afraid? Jack nodded slightly. I noticed. Stay alert. A bell-like sound rang through the chamber, and a panel of 7 aliens entered through a side door. They took seats on a raised platform. The Galactic Council recognizes the representatives from Sol 3, designation Earth, announced one of them. You may present your case for official recognition and trade status. Jack stood and approached the speaking platform. He had practiced this speech for weeks. Honored Council, I bring greetings from Earth and all human colonies. We come seeking peaceful relations and mutual exchange of knowledge and resources. As he spoke, Olivia watched the reactions of the various aliens. Most seemed polite but distant. The Zithrians, however, kept exchanging looks with each other. She began recording their behavior on her tablet. When Jack finished his presentation, the lead council member, a Zithrian, spoke. We acknowledge your petition. The council will now deliberate. Ambassador XL Foreign will serve as your guide during this process. As they left the chamber, Jack felt a mix of hope and worry. They had made first contact, but something didn't feel right. What did you notice? He asked Olivia when they were alone in their assigned quarters. Patterns, she said, showing him her notes. The way they interact with us is different from how they treat each other. and Ambassador Gelforin kept directing conversations away from certain topics. Jack looked out the viewport at the stars. We need to be careful. We came here looking for friends, but I get the feeling we've stepped into something much more complicated. Outside their window, ships from dozens of worlds moved around the station, a dance of power and politics that humans were just beginning to understand. 6 months passed since the first meeting with the Galactic Council. Humans had agreed to the Council's terms: limited military expansion, restricted trade routes, and supervised technology development. Earth's leaders hoped cooperation would lead to acceptance. Captain Eric Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching as his crew scanned the cargo ship ahead of them. The ship claimed to carry farming equipment to New Terra, Earth's largest colony. "Something's wrong with those readings," said Lieutenant Alan Garcia, frowning at his screen. "The mass doesn't match what's on their manifest." Eric nodded. "Hail them again." The alien captain, a Vexilian with gray-ridged skin, appeared on screen. "Why do you delay us?" "We have permission from your government." "Standard inspection," Eric said calmly. "Please prepare for boarding." The Vexilian's skin darkened slightly. "This is against protocol." "Actually, it isn't. Section 7 of the trade agreement allows random inspections by both parties." Eric smiled. "We'll be quick." 3 hours later, Eric stared at the weapons hidden inside the farming equipment. They were advanced energy rifles, banned under the treaty. "Send images to Earth Command," he ordered, "and detain this ship." Back on Earth, Dr. Samantha Powell analyzed trade data in her office at the Global Economics Institute. Spread across her screens were charts showing resource flows between Earth and alien worlds. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the numbers again. The door opened and Ambassador Susan Wright walked in. Her face looked tired after endless meetings with the Council. "Please tell me you have good news," Susan said. Samantha shook her head. "The opposite. Look at these numbers. We're trading rare minerals for what they call advanced technology, but the value exchange is completely uneven. We're getting outdated tech while giving up our most valuable resources." Susan sighed and sat down. "The Council assures me this is standard practice for new species." "They're lying," Samantha said flatly. "I've been studying the economic histories of other recently admitted worlds. They all follow the same pattern. Within 20 years, their key resources are depleted, and they become dependent on Council aid." Susan's communicator buzzed. She looked at the message and her face went pale. "There's been an accident at the Proxima Centauri mining colony." News spread quickly. An explosion had ripped through the main habitat dome on Proxima Centauri. The 342 people were dead, including children. It was equipment failure. Ambassador Gelforin explained to the emergency meeting. "The Council sends its deepest regrets, but your people were using the systems incorrectly." Jack Hudson, now Admiral, stood up from his seat. "Our engineers are saying the life support systems were tampered with." Gelforin's blue skin rippled, a serious accusation without evidence. "We're gathering evidence now," Jack said. "And we found something interesting. The security systems failed exactly 3 minutes before the explosion. All footage was erased. Technical failures often cascade," Gelforin said smoothly. "Now, about the replacement equipment. The Council can provide it at a reasonable cost." Later that night, Jack met with Susan and Samantha in a secure room swept for listening devices. "They're playing us," Susan said. "Every time I raise concerns in Council meetings, I'm redirected or told that I don't understand galactic politics. The weapons Eric found were heading to our colony." Jack added, "Why smuggle weapons to our own people?" Samantha pulled up a new chart. "It gets worse. 3 other human colonies have reported accidents in the past month. Each one destroyed key infrastructure. So we rebuild, they sell us equipment, and we give up more resources," Jack said, understanding dawning on his face. "Exactly," Samantha said. "It's economic warfare." Susan looked out the window at the lights of New Washington. We're playing by their rules, but the game is rigged. Jack's communicator buzzed with a message from Eric. He read it and looked up with hard eyes. Captain Carter just intercepted a communication. There's going to be another accident at the Europa research station next week. What do we do? Susan asked. Jack stood up straight, his decision made. We start by saving Europa. Then we figure out how to change the rules of the game. Outside, rain began to fall on the city, while up in space, unseen ships moved through the darkness toward humanity's vulnerable outposts. Commander Peter Blackwood moved through the ruins of the Proxima Centauri mining colony in his spacesuit. Though 3 weeks had passed since the explosion, the scene still haunted him. Children's toys floated in the zero gravity next to family photos and torn pieces of clothing. "Sir, you need to see this," said Sergeant Kelly Evans over the comm. Section B7. Peter made his way carefully to the location. Kelly stood next to a section of wall that housed life support controls. She pointed to a small device attached to the main power coupling. "This isn't human technology," she said. Peter examined it closer. The device had melted partially in the explosion, but its alien design was clear. He carefully removed it and placed it in an evidence container. "Send this to Dr. Powell immediately," he ordered, "and keep searching. There might be more." By the time Peter returned to Earth, the evidence was overwhelming. The device matched Zithrian technology used in their military operations. The accident was no accident at all. It was sabotage. Admiral Hudson called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. President Richard Miller listened grimly as the evidence was presented. "We saved the Europa station," Jack said. "But we've discovered similar devices on 3 other colonies. They were planning to hit us hard, all at once." "And the Galactic Council?" President Miller asked. Ambassador Susan Wright shook her head. "I presented our findings. They dismissed them as inconclusive. When I pushed harder, they suggested that perhaps humans were too paranoid due to our evolution on a dangerous world." Major Lisa Chen, head of Communications Intelligence, stood up next. "Sir, we've discovered something else. Our secure communications have been compromised." She displayed a series of messages on the main screen. These were supposed to be encrypted transmissions between our colonies and Earth, but they've been intercepted and read. Our encryption was broken before we even started using it. "How?" President Miller asked. "They gave us the communication technology," Lisa explained. "It had backdoors built in from the beginning. Every message we've sent about our concerns, our suspicions, our defenses, they've heard it all." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "There's more," Dr. Samantha Powell said, stepping forward. "The trade data shows a pattern. Every world that joins the Council follows the same path. First, they're isolated from other new species. Then their resources are drained. Finally, they become completely dependent on Council support. And if they resist?" the President asked. "Accidents happen," Jack said simply, "like Proxima Centauri." Peter Blackwood cleared his throat. "I've been in contact with a few other species who joined in the last century. They confirmed everything. The Tellurians lost 3 colonies to equipment failures before they stopped questioning Council decisions." President Miller stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of New Washington glowed under the night sky. "So what are our options?" he asked. "We could keep playing their game," Susan suggested. "Try to work within the system to change it." "That would take decades," Samantha countered. "By then, we'll have lost most of our resource independence." "We could withdraw from the Council," Lisa offered. Jack shook his head. "The Parses tried that 80 years ago. Their world was quarantined for biological concerns. They starved." "So we're trapped," the President said. "Play by their rules and be slowly blood dry, or break away and be crushed." The room fell silent again. Then Peter spoke softly. "There is another option. We stop playing fair." All eyes turned to him. "Explain," the President said. We've been following their rules of engagement, their trade regulations, their communication protocols. What if we stop? What if we use what makes us different, what makes us Deathworlders, to our advantage? They'd consider it an act of war, Susan warned. Peter's eyes hardened. They're already at war with us. We're just the only ones who don't know it yet. The president looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Get me plans. All options. In 24 hours, we decide our course. Outside in the quiet night, a shooting star traced across the sky, burning bright and fierce before disappearing into darkness. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in the underground city of New Denver, Earth's leaders gathered in secret. The bunker had been built during the last war on Earth, designed to survive any attack. Now it protected them from alien ears. President Richard Miller sat at the head of the conference table. Around him were military commanders, scientists, colony representatives, and the few diplomats he still trusted. No electronic devices beyond this point. Admiral Jack Hudson reminded everyone, "We speak freely here and nowhere else." The heavy blast doors sealed with a dull thud. Armed guards stood at attention, faces grim. "You all know why we're here," the president began. "For 2 years, we've tried to be good galactic citizens. We've followed their rules, signed their treaties, and trusted their guidance. In return, we've been robbed, sabotaged, and lied to. People have died. It's time to decide our response." Admiral Hudson stood and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Option 1. We continue as we are, gathering evidence and working through diplomatic channels. Ambassador Susan Wright shook her head. "I've exhausted every diplomatic option. The Council simply redirects, delays, or dismisses our concerns." Option 2. Jack continued. Full military response. General Gregory Phillips, head of Earth's Defense Forces, spoke up. "We'd lose. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, and they have us outnumbered thousands to 1. Option 3, Jack said, his voice dropping lower, is something new. He nodded to Dr. Kevin Marshall, who stood. The scientist looked uncomfortable in the military setting, but his voice was steady. "I've been studying what makes humans different from Council species," Kevin said. "Most Council worlds are stable, with predictable climates and few natural disasters. Their evolution favored specialization and efficiency." He displayed images of various alien physiologies. "Their bodies and minds are perfectly adapted to specific conditions. Impressive, but inflexible." "And humans?" asked Governor Maria Dias from the Mars colony. "We evolved on a death world," Kevin replied. "Earth's unpredictable environment forced us to become adaptable rather than specialized. We can survive in environments that would kill most Council species. We can eat foods that would poison them. Our bodies can endure pressure changes, temperature extremes, and radiation levels that would be fatal to many." "Are you suggesting we use these biological advantages?" the president asked. "Not just biological," Kevin said. "Psychological too. Council species evolved in stable environments where cooperation was always the best strategy. They follow rules because their worlds rewarded rule following. And Earth didn't," Jack added. "Exactly," Kevin agreed. "Earth rewarded those who could adapt quickly when the rules changed. When the river flooded, when the climate shifted, when predators evolved new tactics, humans survived by changing their approach." Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Brooks stood next. His Special Forces uniform was unmarked except for a simple flag patch. "I've been tasked with forming a new division," he said. "The Unconventional Warfare Division. We've been developing tactics that exploit these differences." He displayed schematics of modified ships and weapons. Council military doctrine assumes conventional warfare between roughly equal opponents, following established rules of engagement. They're not prepared for asymmetric tactics. The room was silent as everyone considered the implications. "You're talking about guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale," General Phillips said finally. "Yes," Nathan said simply. "They expect us to fight fair. We don't have to." President Miller looked around the table. This would violate our treaties. It would mark us as renegades. They violated the treaties first, Susan said quietly. We just didn't know it. If we do this, the president continued, there's no going back. We would be rejecting the galactic order they've built. An order designed to exploit and control, Jack pointed out. The president stood and walked to a wall map showing human territory, Earth, and a dozen small colony worlds, tiny specks in the vastness of the galaxy. We are so few, he said softly, and they are so many. But we are Deathworlders, Nathan said, and it's time they learned what that really means. After a long silence, the president turned back to the table. Prepare Operation Fair Play. May God help us all. Outside the bunker, snow began to fall on the mountains, covering the ground in white, while deep below, humanity decided to change the rules of the game. The UES Defiant drifted silently through the asteroid belt of the Proxima Centauri system. Its hull was painted with a new material that absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Captain Daniel Ward watched the main view screen as a Zithrian patrol ship passed by less than 1,000 kilometers away, completely unaware of their presence. Stealth system holding, reported Lieutenant Alicia Rodriguez from her station. They don't see us. Daniel nodded. Hold position until they're out of range. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. This was the third test of engineer Michelle Garcia's new stealth technology, and so far it was working perfectly. Michelle had discovered that most alien sensor systems were designed to detect the materials and energy signatures common to their own technology. They weren't looking for the unique signatures of human ships because they had never needed to. By changing the external coding of their ships and modifying their energy outputs, humans could become nearly invisible. Once the Zithrian ship moved away, Daniel opened a secure channel. Defiant to control. Phase 1 successful. Moving to Phase 2. On Earth, in the new headquarters of the Unconventional Warfare Division, Admiral Jack Hudson received the message. Acknowledged, Defiant. Proceed to Phase 2. Next to him stood Major Ryan Collins and his team of 6 specially trained operatives. They were preparing for the most dangerous mission yet, infiltrating the Zithrian Central Command Station. Are you sure this will work? Jack asked, looking at the strange suits the team was wearing. Ryan nodded. The Zithrians evolved on a world with 0.8 Earth gravity and a thinner atmosphere. Their station maintains those conditions. These suits will help us appear Zithrian to their sensors while allowing us to operate in their environment. And if you're discovered, Ryan smiled grimly. That's why we've been training in high-gravity combat for 6 months. In their environment, we're stronger and faster than they are. They won't expect that. Engineer Michelle Garcia entered the room, carrying what looked like small beetles. Your infiltration devices, she said, handing them to Ryan. Place them on any computer terminal, and they'll create a backdoor into their systems. You have 24 hours, Jack reminded them. After that, we move to Phase 3 regardless. On the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Exelforin received an urgent message from Zithrian High Command. He quickly excused himself from a diplomatic reception and hurried to his private quarters. What do you mean missing? He demanded when the secure channel opened. How can 3 supply ships simply disappear? They vanished from our sensors in the Ta-Ceti system, replied the Zithrian commander. No distress signals, no debris. They're just gone. And the human colonies? They claim to know nothing. Their representatives seemed genuinely confused. Xelforin's skin darkened with worry. This was the 5th such disappearance in 2 weeks. Ships carrying resources from human colonies simply vanishing. The council was beginning to ask questions he couldn't answer. Increase patrols in all human sectors, he ordered. And send me all sensor data from the disappearances. What Xelforin didn't know was that the ships weren't destroyed. They were being captured by human stealth vessels, their valuable cargo reclaimed, and their crews placed in stasis to be returned once Operation Fair Play succeeded, or used as bargaining chips if it failed. Back on the Defiant, Captain Daniel Ward received new orders. "We're moving to the Sirius system," he told his crew. "The supply chain disruption is working. Now we need to gather intelligence directly from their military installations." "Sir," Alicia said hesitantly, "won't they be looking for us now?" "They're looking for ships using their tactics," Daniel replied. "We're using ours. They expect direct confrontation. Large fleets, formal engagements, standard formations. We're giving them none of that." In space near Alpha Centauri, a Zithrian battlecruiser suddenly lost power as tiny, undetectable human drones attached themselves to its hull and disrupted its systems. The ship drifted helplessly as a small human vessel approached, downloaded its database, and disappeared again before help could arrive. On a dozen worlds throughout Council space, human agents made contact with other oppressed species, sharing technologies and tactics, building a hidden network of resistance. The galactic game was changing. The Deathworlders had stopped playing fair, and no one was prepared for what would happen next. Grand Admiral Vo Zithrin stood before the Zithrian Imperial War Council, his blue skin dark with anger. The holographic display showed the extent of the destruction caused by human activities. 27 ships missing, 5 outposts compromised, and countless data systems infected with unknown programs. "The Deathworlders must be contained immediately," he declared. "I propose a full military response. We will deploy the Third Fleet to Earth and show these primitives the consequences of defying the natural order." The Council murmured its approval. The humans had been a problem since their arrival on the galactic scene. Now they had become a threat. "Begin preparations," ordered Emperor Zithvalon. "The humans must learn their place." Across the galaxy, a massive Zithrian warfleet assembled. Over 300 ships, from massive dreadnoughts to fast attack vessels, prepared to contain the human threat once and for all. What the Zithrians didn't know was that Commander Frank Phillips watched their every move. Hidden in a nebula near the Zithrian shipyards, his vessel, the UES Shadow, recorded the fleet's preparations and transmitted the data through a network of hidden relays back to Earth. "They're gathering a force large enough to overwhelm all our defenses," Frank reported to Admiral Hudson. "Estimated arrival at Earth in 15 days. Jack's face remained calm on the screen. "Good. That's exactly what we wanted." Frank raised an eyebrow. "Sir, continue monitoring, Commander, and prepare to activate the network when I give the signal." Over the past 3 months, Commander Phillips had established a web of hidden human bases throughout Council space. Some were tucked into asteroid belts, others hidden in nebula or buried on uninhabited moons. These bases housed small, fast strike teams ready to hit the Zithrians from behind once they committed their forces to Earth. Meanwhile, on a small agricultural world called Teller, Governor Alice Bennett met secretly with representatives of the Tellurian species. The Tellurians were short, with thick fur and large eyes adapted to their dim homeworld. They had joined the Council a century ago and had suffered exploitation similar to what humans were experiencing. "We've watched your resistance with great interest," said Elder Kier Telephone. "The Council has kept us separated from other new species, but we found ways to observe." "And now you want to help?" Alice asked. "We want to join you," Kier corrected. "The Zithrians took our resources, just as they're taking yours. Many of our colonies suffered accidents when we questioned their methods." Alice nodded. "We've discovered at least 6 other species with similar experiences. The Council keeps us divided and weak," Kirtel said. "But together, we might have a chance." Alice handed over a data crystal. "These are designs for stealth technology and communication systems the Zithrians can't detect. Can your people adapt them quickly?" "We may look primitive to the Council, but we have skills they've chosen to ignore," Kirtel said with a small smile. "We'll be ready when you need us." Back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked tirelessly in her lab. Surrounding her were pieces of alien technology salvaged from captured ships. The problem with Zithrian weapons is that they're designed for Zithrian physiology, she explained to a team of engineers. Their reaction times are different from ours. Their visual processing focuses on different wavelengths. She displayed schematics of modified human weapon systems. By understanding these differences, we can create defenses they won't expect and can't easily counter. In orbit around Earth, the UES Defiant and 12 other stealth vessels prepared for the coming battle. Captain Daniel Ward addressed his crew. The Zithrians are coming with everything they have, he told them. They expect us to fight according to Council military doctrine, to meet their fleet head-on in open space. They expect us to lose. He smiled grimly. We will not be where they expect. We will not fight how they expect. And we will not lose. Across human space, preparations accelerated. Colony worlds buried their settlements deeper. Civilian ships disappeared from normal routes. Military vessels modified their signatures to appear damaged or abandoned. To the watching galaxy, it seemed that humanity was in disarray, unaware of the coming storm. But beneath the surface, a plan years in the making was about to unfold. The Battle of Alpha Centauri would be the first major test of the new human approach, and it would shock the galaxy to its core. The sky above Alpha Centauri be filled with Zithrian warships. Grand Admiral Vo Zithran watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Dominance, as his fleet moved into attack formation. The human colony below had been evacuated. According to their sensors, the cowardly Deathworlders had fled before the might of the Zithrian Empire. All ships in position, Admiral reported his second-in-command. No sign of human military vessels. Their orbital defenses appear abandoned. Vo Zithran's skin shifted to a pleased purple shade. Begin the bombardment. Let this be a lesson to all who defy the Council. The first volley of energy weapons launched from the Zithrian ships, aimed at the colony's main structures. But as the beams reached the atmosphere, they scattered in unexpected patterns. Hidden defense shields, operating on frequencies the Zithrians couldn't detect, deflected the attack. What is happening? Demanded Vo Zithran. Increase power. Before his order could be carried out, sensors across the fleet began sounding alarms. Small objects appeared seemingly from nowhere, attaching to the hulls of his ships. Power systems failed. Weapons went offline. Communications became garbled. We're under attack, shouted his second-in-command. But there are no ships on our sensors. Vo Zithran stared in disbelief as his mighty fleet became paralyzed. Then, like ghosts appearing from mist, human vessels materialized all around them. They had been there all along, using the stealth technology that Zithrian sensors couldn't detect. Captain Daniel Ward's voice broadcast across all Zithrian channels. This is Captain Ward of the United Earth Navy. Your fleet is disabled. Surrender or be destroyed. The battle was over before it truly began. The numerically superior Zithrian fleet had been defeated by tactics they had never imagined possible. While the Zithrians struggled to comprehend their defeat at Alpha Centauri, Lieutenant Julia Ramirez led a daring mission on the Galactic Council station. Her team of 6 moved through maintenance tunnels, wearing environmental suits that masked their human life signs. Security checkpoint ahead, whispered Corporal Ben Hayes through their secure comm system. 2 guards. Julia checked her scanner. Their shift change is in 3 minutes. We wait. When the guards left to be replaced, the human team slipped past and continued toward their target, the Council archives. These records, dating back thousands of years, contained the true history of the Council's dealings with new species. Using access codes provided by their Tellurian allies, they entered the archive and quickly located the central data core. Begin the download, Julia ordered, and plant the broadcast node. Their mission wasn't just to gather information. They needed to share it with every species in Council space. On the other side of the station, Captain Andrew Mills met secretly with representatives from 7 species who had suffered under Zithrian rule. Each had been contacted through the network of resistance the humans had built. When the broadcast begins, your people need to be ready, Andrew told them. This is our one chance to break the Council's control. Back on Earth, President Miller received word that both missions were in position. "Give the order," he told Admiral Hudson. Jack's voice was solemn as he spoke into the secure communication system. "All units, execute Operation Truth." Across Council space, the carefully placed human broadcast nodes activated simultaneously. The feed from the archives began streaming to every communication device on every world under Council influence. The files showed centuries of systematic exploitation. They revealed how the Council, dominated by the Zithrians, had deliberately kept new species separated, prevented them from forming alliances, and engineered accidents when they became too independent. Most damning were the Council's own reports, calculating exactly how much wealth could be extracted from each world before its people would revolt, and how to crush such revolts when they occurred. As the evidence flooded across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate. On dozens of worlds, people took to the streets. On the Council station itself, representatives from middle-tier species, like the Vixilians and the Procyon Collective, publicly denounced the Zithrians. Ambassador Xelthorin tried desperately to contain the damage. "These are human fabrications. They are manipulating you against us." But it was too late. The carefully maintained system of control was crumbling. Species that had been kept apart for centuries began communicating directly, sharing their experiences of exploitation and oppression. The Galactic Council, for the first time in its long history, began to splinter as accusations flew between the formerly dominant species, and in the confusion, human ships quietly moved into position around key strategic points throughout Council space. The Deathworlders had changed the game forever. The day Deathworlders stopped playing fair, a legend every species remembers. 3 months after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, representatives from 17 species gathered on neutral ground. The human colony on TRAPPIST-1E had been chosen for its beauty and its distance from both Earth and the former Council worlds. The meeting hall was designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and environmental needs, a physical symbol of the new approach. Admiral Laura Scott led the human delegation. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was formal but deliberately without weapons. This was to be a meeting of equals, not conquerors. "Welcome to Harmony Hall," she said as the delegates settled around the circular table. "We gather today not as rulers and ruled, but as fellow travelers in this galaxy." The Tellurian elder, Hirtel, spoke next. "For too long, the Council maintained power by keeping us apart. They made each newly discovered species believe they were alone in their struggles." A representative of the Vixilian Federation, once aligned with the Zithrians, lowered his head. "Some of us were complicit in this system. We believe the lies we were told about the necessity of the hierarchy. The past cannot be changed," Laura said, "but the future is ours to shape. Today we begin drafting a new galactic charter based on principles of fair exchange and mutual respect." The discussions were not easy. Centuries of mistrust could not be erased in days, but progress was made. Teams of legal experts from all species worked together to create a system with checks and balances to prevent any single group from dominating others. On the 5th day of negotiations, alarms sounded throughout the colony. A fleet of 30 Zithrian warships had appeared at the edge of the system. "They're charging weapons," reported Commander Alicia Rodriguez from the Defense Center. Laura Scott remained calm. "Alert our allies. Activate defense systems." Emperor Zithvalan's face appeared on the main screen. His blue skin was almost black with fury. "This illegal gathering will disperse immediately. The natural order will be restored. The Deathworlders and their allies will submit or be destroyed." But the Emperor's threat was empty. Before the Zithrian fleet could attack, ships from 15 species dropped out of faster-than-light travel around them. The Zithrians found themselves outnumbered 5-1. "The natural order has changed," Laura replied simply. "You are welcome to join our discussions as equals. If you choose war instead, you will lose." For a tense moment, it seemed the Emperor would choose destruction. Then, a different Cythrian appeared on screen, physically pushing the Emperor aside. "This is Council Member Zithrilin," the new figure announced. "The Emperor has been removed for crimes against multiple species. We request permission to send a representative to your talks." The final attempt to restore the old order had failed. The new Galactic Charter was signed 1 week later by all 17 species, including a reformed Zithrian government. The charter established free trade zones, open communication channels, and joint scientific ventures. Most importantly, it created a system where new species would be welcomed as equals, not exploited as resources. The term Deathworlder was once used to dismiss humans as primitive and dangerous, Laura Scott said at the signing ceremony. Today we reclaim it. Yes, we evolved on a harsh world. Yes, that made us adaptable and sometimes fierce. But it also taught us that cooperation and fairness are essential for survival. 5 years later, Admiral Jack Hudson, now retired, stood on a viewing platform on Earth's moon. Below him, the blue planet turned peacefully. Above, ships from dozens of worlds moved through space, trading goods and knowledge freely. A Tellurian child stood next to him on a raised platform, watching the traffic with wide eyes. "Is it true you fought the Great War, sir?" Jack smiled. "It wasn't a great war, little one. It was a great refusal. The day we stopped playing a game rigged against us. My teacher says that changed everything," the child said. "It did," Jack agreed. "But not because humans won. Because everyone who had been treated unfairly finally stood together." As Jack looked out at the stars, he thought of all the friends lost, the hard decisions made, and the risks taken. The path had been difficult, but the result was a galaxy where rules existed to protect all, not just the powerful. Across the stars, in classrooms and gathering places on 100 worlds, the story was told of the day Deathworlders stopped playing fair, and how it led to a galaxy where finally everyone could play fair together.